Awesome. Welcome everyone to the first webinar of 2024. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be saying that because then it'll get dated if people are watching it later, but you know, I can't help myself, so I'm going to do it anyway. So welcome everyone. I already see some of you are using your reactions. Would you do me a favor? Find your reactions button for those of you who've joined us. Tell us if you're happy to be here today. Let us know by showing us those reactions. You can even give us a thumbs down if you're having a rough day, but that's just fine. We like honesty as much as we like enthusiasm. Welcome to today's session. My name is Jody, and I am producing the session for you today. And so in just a moment, I'm going to pass it over to Shannon, and we're going to officially get started. You'll see on your screen today that today's topic is priority planning. It's about your daily activity plan. And I said to Shannon just before we started, I said to her, is this, in the hundreds and hundreds of people that you have trained, is this the biggest question you get? And she said, yeah, I think it is. What do I do with my time? So I'm not going to do the introduction. I'll let her do it. But let me remind you that for our English participants, Shannon will be facilitating in English, but we also have Spanish translations available. So please feel free to turn on the Spanish translations if you need them. We also are using the chat just for talking. So feel free to open up your chat, communicate with each other. Sometimes the translations, our translator's really busy trying to keep all of the talking going. So we don't always get real-time Spanish translations in the chat. So be patient with us as we navigate that. There is also a Q&A that is available, but only use the Q&A if you have a question you want to ask Shannon. We don't typically answer, actually, we don't ever answer the Q&A questions during the webinar, but we keep them, we try to answer them in future sessions, okay? So that's what the Q&A is for, all right? What else am I forgetting? I think that's about it. So the Q&A is available, translations are available, and I think without further ado, I will pass it over to you, Shannon. Enjoy the webinar today, folks.
Thank you so much, Jody. I appreciate you. I think you know that already, but she just does such a great job. So I couldn't do this without her help. Happy New Year to all of you. It is so great to be back with our Healy family. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about priority planning. What does that look like? How does it make you feel? I think that, you know, we went into some goal setting sort of foundational content the last time, but now what we're going to do is we're actually going to start thinking about the actions that need to be put into place. And I always say we don't give magic pills, but if we did, this might be something that you might consider a bit of a magic pill, because it is a process. It is something you can follow. We're going to give you some action sheets at the end of this session. These action sheets, it was interesting, Jody had mentioned, hey, the action sheets, if you just have the action sheets, it's not going to do anything for you. You actually have to do the stuff in the action sheets. That's why we call them action sheets. So there's going to be a couple of them we're going to provide for you after this session. I have to tell you that I'll take responsibility for this one. With the holidays and everything, I didn't get the sessions over, or the action sheets over for translation quite in time before the holidays took place. So it might take a couple of days for you to see those in your back office, but you will find them and they'll be attached to the recording as well. So you'll be able to get those in just a couple of days. But today what we're going to do is we're really going to go through what it means to set the right priorities. Whether you are doing Healy because you just want to get the Healy into the hands of people to help them on their journey, whether you're building the business, whether you're trying to replace an income, all of those are valid reasons to be involved with Healy. But today what we're going to do is we're going to give you some really guided steps on how to accomplish some of those goals, no matter what those goals are, okay? So I think a really great way to start is talking about our time management skills. How do we feel about time management? How do we feel about our skills? Can we actually build a business successfully and still enjoy our journey? Well, I'm going to tell you from firsthand experience, yes, you can. However, it does take some intention. It's about doing more than floating. It's more than just seeing what the day will bring. It's more than just scrolling on social media and seeing if an opportunity presents itself. We really do have to be intentional if we want to reach our goals. And after spending the last almost 6 years now building TAP, I can tell you firsthand that intention is absolutely a massive part of being successful. So, what I want us to approach before we even go into time management and the skills that we need to hone in order to have or reach the goals that we want to reach is we have to really define what time management is. Um, the way I see it is it's really how people consciously decide how to use their time. And so they can be as effective, efficient, and productive as possible. But don't you ask these questions? I know I do. Where am I going to find the time? I really struggle to stay organized. I don't know how to set the right priorities. I can't seem to get my daily tasks completed. I'm always busy, but sometimes we don't even get the things done that we're supposed to get done. So, how do we stay productive and still enjoy life and have time for ourselves, our families, our friends, having fun? We can't create more time. So, what we've got to do is we've got to start looking at time management maybe just a little bit differently. The truth is, we aren't really managing time at all. We're actually managing ourselves. And I think that's the first shift we need to make. Is look, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But really, it's what do we do? What are the actions we take? How intentional are we? Maybe we're not necessarily enjoying our journey because we're acting in ways that aren't congruent with what we value, what we deem to be important. And in order to find enjoyment, we might need to change our behaviors or change the situation that we happen to be in. So, the first question I want to ask you, so I want you to use your chat, and I want you to tell me, how does trying to master your time make you feel? And I think we'll probably see a gamut of different responses. I'm curious to see. How does it make you feel? Overwhelmed. Yep, that's a big answer we get, Carla. Absolutely. Stressful. Like a chicken with their head cut off. Okay, organized. Ah, Elisa, like I'm in control. Yes. Stressed. Where do I start? Monica says. Yeah, overwhelmed. Yep. So a lot of times I used to feel overwhelmed and constricted. Now I feel more relaxed, knowing that the big rocks are in place and I'm in control of my time and energy. Wow. So we could probably learn a few things from you, Ellen. I constantly have interrupters, overwhelmed, anxious. I feel productive, Wendy. So that means that, when you are mastering your time, that's how you feel. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important for us to understand that there are a gamut of emotions that come up when it comes to mastering our time, when it comes to time management. However, we want to say it, oftentimes it is filled with really great and positive emotions when we do have control. And when we don't have control, we often feel those negative emotions: frustrated, fearful, angry, annoyed, alone. Life can feel really, really Jody, really good point, actually. This word bubble was actually created when we had talked about this from another group of people. And these were the real feelings that people felt. So really great to bring that up. Thank you, Jody, for that. When we don't create intention and we're not intentional about our year, our day, our hours, we often are drifting, and we can allow the way that we woke up to penetrate the way in which we feel throughout the day. And that can feel like disorder or confusion. We're drifting. So we can feel things are unpredictable. We don't know how the day is going to turn out. Let's just see where the day takes us. How many of us have said that? It can feel tumultuous. It can feel like mayhem. I know these are strong words, but oftentimes when we are not living intentionally, we can feel disappointed and life can feel chaotic. I do some personal one-on-one coaching, executive coaching, and I was working with a leader last week. And this was one of the things that she really wants to work on, was being able to manage herself and her time and use that wisely as possible. And she felt completely overwhelmed. And that was the word she used. She said, it feels chaotic. And I know that I can do better, but I don't necessarily know how to get there. And that's what we're going to do today. Okay. When you're intentional about your time, you can, and this is here for each of you that are here today, you can feel clarity, you can feel joy, you can feel organized, calm, stable, accomplished. I love what Adriana said in the chat. If I succeed, oh, there's some more stuff coming in, but let's just see if I can see what she said here. If I succeed, I feel accomplished and energized. And if not, it's very overwhelming and creates a sense of being lost. Adriana, such a really great way to put that into words. And Doc, okay, so now you're talking about real things, right? You're talking about there are so many distractions, and the world creates that, but we also create that by drifting when we're not intentional, when we don't set aside time where we can't be interrupted. And so we need to put in some disciplines, we need to put in some actions, and we need to hone some techniques. So here they are. Okay, I'm going to give you some magic pills, so to speak. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. What we've found doing this for almost 2 decades is that each of these 8 disciplines and techniques are valuable, each on their own, for sure. And Elsa just asked a great question. How do we be focused all the time? And that's a really good question. And we don't have to be focused all of the time. What we've got to do is set aside times where we can focus on the things that are important. We'll get into that in a few minutes. I promise you, Elsa, I feel like I'm going to have a really good answer for you. Okay. So being present and staying focused in the time that we have allotted to do that, to be productive. Okay. Letting go of excuses. Many of us, and I'm one of them, okay? I can make excuses till the cows come home. And it's not until I'm really, really honest with myself and the people around me when I say, yeah, I've been lazy. I haven't, here we go. Here's a big one. This one, can you see it? There we go. It's my phone. When I don't silence it, when I look at every message that I'm getting, I tend to not be focused. And I'm making excuses for, well, I've got to have my phone on me. I run a business. I have to have it. But do I? That's the question, right? Crushing procrastination. And there are a lot of things around that. And I would love to get into that. And hopefully, when we do some of our coaching sessions, we'll get into some of these in much more detail. Today, we've got time to focus on 2 things, and I'll tell you what those are in a second. Defending our boundaries. So, really making sure that we've put time in place and we've prioritized that. Looking back and planning ahead, these are some action techniques. These are the magic pills I'm talking about. Again, not magic, because they don't happen on their own. You don't take a pill and all of a sudden life is wonderful and I'm getting done what I need to get done. That's not the way it goes. We have to, first of all, we have to reflect on where are we spending our time currently? What is distracting us? What are we doing that we could do better? And then we need to block time for things that matter. I'm going to tell you right now that in my office, if you saw it, I have a massive, big weekly calendar where I actually go out and I block time. Now, beautiful for you, guess what? One of those action sheets is going to be a weekly action sheet that you can put into place. And once you figure it out, it takes a little bit of practice, but once you figure it out, you can block time for all the things that matter to you. Not equal time, equal energy. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But you can get to the things that are most important, but you do have to be intentional about it. Consistently doing your daily activity plan, prioritizing, make sure that you're putting into place and spending the time that are the things that matter, not to Healy, not to corporate, not to your partner, not to your kids, but to you. What's important to you? And taking ownership of that while you're measuring progress. Now, like I said, we only have an hour today. This is by far a 2-day session, and I would love to go through all of it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of those really meaty things that will help you, and these action sheets that are going to give you the right tool to be able to put this into place. So the 2 areas we're going to focus on today is your tap blocker. Okay. So this is where you block time for things that matter. And we're going to walk you through what it means to create a daily activity plan. Now, I would love to be curious and ask you right now, how many of you have an actual daily activity plan? Maybe you can put thumbs up in the emoticons. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay, so Claudette says, yes, I have a daily activity plan. Okay, so many of you do, which is excellent, is absolutely necessary. Now, what we want to do is not just give this to you. We want you to be able to share this with your teams as well. So beautiful. What we've got for you is instructions on how this works for you, but also how to share it with your team. Okay. So we've got those instructions that are added to the front of your action plan so that you can give this and share it with others. Okay, yeah. And there are lots of distractions. So Courtney, absolutely, things get in the way. And we have to plan for that as well. Not always can we do exactly what we planned. We have to pivot. We have to move around those obstacles. Lucky for you, guess what we're talking about next month? We're talking about overcoming obstacles. So we'll talk about that next time we're together. But today let's focus on this. So we can't create more time. We know that. However, what we can do is if we focus on these 2 things, we can't change that 24 hours. We all have the same 24 hours. But if we plan it well, we can help you master your time. Again, going back to being intentional, spending the right amount of time on the right activities. Well, to Jody's point, that's one of the biggest questions we get at TAP is, but what is that number? What is that percentage of time that I need to spend? Well, it's a bit of a math problem. So this is going to be part of your homework is you are going to have to do a little bit of math. And it really does come down to reflecting back on your core values, thinking about your goals for healing, and then using that as a guide to set up the right amount of time for the right activities. And we're going to give you those activities in a few minutes, okay? You might be struggling right now. I understand that. But if you try this and you practice it and you hone this skill, I can tell you that it will make a massive difference. There are a number of sort of proven time management techniques that can help. There's no doubt about it. If you Google time management or you Google experts in time management, you're going to find all kinds of them. I'm going to share 3 of them with you in a few minutes. But what I will tell you is that it's key to find the right one that works for you. So we will give you an example, but what we want you to do is we want you to customize it for you. We're going to give you all the tools to do that, okay? Comes down to how you approach things. There's many different ways in which you can manage your time, and it looks like already some of you are doing really well in that space, which is awesome. But you're also here, so maybe you're here to see, hey, maybe I can hone this a little bit more. Maybe it'll give me something better to think about. Maybe I am feeling like I'm mastering my time, but I'm not getting the results that I want. Well, maybe we need to take a look at what is it that we are spending our time on. All right. So let's take a look at that, and let's take a look at how some of these experts approach it. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on 2 things. Okay. Setting the right priorities. It's the first one we're going to focus in on, and having a daily activity plan. All right. So I'm going to share with you two people. You probably don't know who these people are. What we've tried to do is give a bit of a diverse perspective because we're all so different. We all have very different ways in which we approach things. Okay, so this is Jeff Ward. Jeff Ward happens to be the founder and CEO of Amniki. I may not be saying this properly, so I'm going to do my best, but he's Ojibwa and Métis web designer, okay? He's a software developer, he's an author, he's a speaker, and he's also the board member for Aboriginal People's Television Network. So probably a pretty busy gentleman here. And his big thing is taking time to pause, all right? So when he thinks about his day, he makes sure that he prioritizes taking time to pause. Now, Chris is a very different personality. Chris is all about achieving big but very, very long-term goals. Now, Chris happens to be a labor organizer. He's known for his role in leading Amazon workers organization in Staten Island. He's also the president and founder of the Amazon Labor Union. So again, probably a pretty busy person. And he is really about understanding that, listen, slow and steady wins the race. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to get the things that need to be done. And I'm not going to expect those immediate results because it's going to take time for me to get there. And then there's this other person. You might have heard of her before. Her name is Shannon, happens to be me. And I would say that this is something that I have absolutely had to hone. It's a skill that I've had to really, really become an expert in because I actually have 4 kids and 2 fur babies, and I run a business, and I'm writing books, and I'm doing all the things that you do as a CEO of a business. And I'm spending time with people like you. And what I can tell you is that I have learned from the people that I've coached. I've literally worked with thousands of people around the world. And the reason why I feel so confident as putting myself on the slide is because I have listened to what they've said. And I can tell you that it's 3 things that these people, the most successful leaders that I know, share the same things. They share things that are in common with all of them. They're clear about their core values. They prioritize the things that matter to them, and they have a plan of action. So we've already gone through our core values. We've done that already. If you haven't done the core values webinar, I suggest that you go in and you take a look at that and you actually do the exercise that we gave you to find out what your core values are. Because when you're setting goals, you need to have that front and center. Because if you're setting goals that aren't within your values, then you're likely not to achieve them. And it's going to cause some incongruence in your behaviors. So what we want to do is really focus in on that. And what we want to do is we really want to understand that, listen, it's not just knowing these things. It's not just prioritizing, because these are all actions we can do. So we can do the core values action sheet. We can know exactly what we value. We can prioritize, so create a list from 1 to 10, and this is my number 1 priority, and this is my number 10. And I can create a plan, but if I do nothing with that plan, nothing's going to happen. So without action, none of this is going to happen. And unfortunately, oftentimes, many of us get stuck in a rut. We don't do the things that we plan to do. This is the time of year where many people have just recently created what we call New Year's resolutions. How many of you created some New Year's resolutions? Any of you? Thumbs up if you did. Thumbs down if you didn't. Let's see. Anyone create a New Year's resolution? Yeah. Now, what I'm going to ask you is how many of you don't need to answer this one, but how many of you have already fallen short? How many of you have consistently gone forward and moved on that? What we find about New Year's resolutions is that oftentimes It's externally based. It's a moment motivator. It's not an inspirational change, and you have not put the tools in place to be long-term successful. So again, I'm not talking about you. You might be killing it and crushing it, and that's awesome. But what I can tell you is for the thousands, maybe millions of people that have set New Year's resolutions, many of them have already fallen short on those resolutions. So what makes the difference? Well, it comes down to really mastering your time. And I think it's important for us to really understand the benefits of mastering our time. So we've already said those feelings. So when we're killing it out there, there's some really positive things that create a feeling within us. But if we're not mastering our time, if we feel like we're wasting time, we feel things like guilt, we feel overwhelmed, we feel stress, anxiety. And so what I want to remind us before we go right into the meat of things is the benefits. So if you do the work, you'll have less stress and anxiety. You'll get more done. You'll experience better success. There'll be less rework. You'll have less friction and problems. You'll have more free time to do the things that you want. You'll be wasting less time. You'll have improved credibility. It'll take you less effort, and you'll have more time for the things that matter. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to reflect for a moment. Let's be real. Let's be transparent. Okay. And I'm going to ask you, what in this area are you doing well? Go ahead, put it in the chat. What are you doing well when it comes to your time management? Are you delegating? Are you setting priorities? Are you exercising? Are you doing personal and professional development? What are you doing well when it comes to managing your time? All right, starting to see some responses come in. Yeah, absolutely, Adriana. I start my to-do list the night before, scheduling, usually setting priorities, keep up with my calendar, and a daily, weekly to-do. Oh no. So we've got a little bit of a poor connection for Angelica, maybe that's how sorry if I've butchered your name. I hope I haven't done too badly. Maybe what you can do is listen to this in the recording later too. Start taking action, creating balance. Carla, that's a really interesting and I think very common word for people to use, and I'd love to go a little bit deeper into balance. I think that balance is something that we all pursue, and I think that there's also maybe a preconceived idea that balance means equal time in all the things that matter, and it's actually not true. It's making sure that all the things that matter have some time, but some need more than others, right? Yeah, prioritizing, creating lists. I'm a big list maker. Time blocking on my calendar. Okay, getting to the big rocks first. This is so awesome. Okay, really great comment, Adriana. Knowing some things can be moved to the next day. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So it sounds like some of you are doing some really good things. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that you should be giving yourself a pat on the back for. Okay. Maybe you're someone who delegates. Maybe you're contributing around the house. Maybe you are doing what you say you're going to do. Maybe you're giving to others. You feel good about your choices. You're loving your work. You're laughing a lot. You have a set vision of where you're going. You might be excited about your day. These are all things that you might be doing well. So now I'm going to ask the next question. What areas do you need some work on? Let's hear it. boundaries. Courtney, it's a big one. How many of us get pulled away from the important things because we've not put strong boundaries in place? Stop being on social media. Social media is a goal killer on a lot of cases. Now
Shannon,
we're going to give you some, yeah,
let me just remind participants when they're putting in the chat to make sure it's set to everyone. Quite a few of you were sending it just to the hosts and the panelists, so everyone else is not seeing your responses. I just don't want them to miss it, okay? So set
awesome.
it to
Thank you so
everyone.
much for the reminder, Jody. Appreciate that. Avoid drifting. Claire, it's a big one and it feels good to drift. Think about it. Think about, in a practical sense, being in a canoe, lying back in the sun and just letting life go by, going down the river, feeling all the feels, the sun on our face, the breeze in our hair. Feels great. Paddling, not so much. It's work. Problem is if we drift, we don't know where we're going to end up, right? We could end up on the shoreline. We could end up somewhere we don't want to be going. And we could end up in a bit of, a predicament as well. When we're guiding our lives with intention, when we're rowing the boat, we're much more likely to get to where we're going. Some of you may need some work on these things. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you just need to get away. Maybe you feel guilty, distracted, missing important events. Funny enough, when we don't have good control of our time ourselves, it can show up in our relationships. Funny enough, we can feel aggravated. We can feel annoyed. We can feel like, we never have time for anything because we're constantly responding to the distractions in our lives. We may look up an hour and a half later from social media and go, oh my gosh, I was supposed to do these 3 things or these 4 things, or I'm late for a meeting now. How many of us have done that? Many of us have. This is not about feeling guilty. This is about empowering you to know that you, every one of you, have more control than you think you do. But again, it means you have to do the work. Listen, time is your most valuable resource, okay? But it's absolutely up to you to make sure that you're spending time on things that matter. So what are we going to do for you? Well, we're going to give you an action sheet, and it looks a little bit like what you see on the screen right now, okay? What we would say is one of the most common frustrations that we hear from people in direct sales or entrepreneurs is that they feel like they can never turn off. Sometimes business seeps into every area of our life. Sometimes personal life creeps into our business. And sometimes we're so busy taking care of everybody else in our lives, our business and our children and our friends and our, partners and the world, that we don't actually take time for ourselves. And if this goes on too long, our businesses can sap our energy, our families can steal our joy. We can start feeling tired, overwhelmed, anxious, and not enjoying our journey. And that's what I said at the beginning of this session is, listen, you can enjoy your journey. You can enjoy doing healing, doing your job, spending time with loved ones, taking care of yourself, but you have to prioritize it. And a way in which we can create some balance in our lives is an approach called time blocking. It is super simple. And essentially, it's 24 hours in each day for 7 days. And it's a blank screen. It's a blank sheet, okay? And what we're saying is there's 10 key areas generally that it falls into something. No matter what we're doing in our day, it falls into those 10 key areas. This is what we've learned through the thousands of coaching sessions we've done. And so we've got 10 key areas. And what we're asking you to do in this worksheet is to write them all down, first and foremost, and then start blocking time for the things that matter. We're all different. We're all going to have different things that matter to us. There are things that drive us, things that give us joy, things that keep us motivated. And entrepreneurs are definitely unique and often share common drivers. That is what we've learned. That is what I have learned working with thousands of people who are in direct sales and network marketing. And we have found that most of them can be categorized in these 10 key areas. Okay. So the key is really understanding what matters to you. So what are those key areas? Well, let's talk about them for a second. Okay. Their mental health, physical health, spiritual well-being, our inner circle relationships, our businesses, financial planning, if you have a job, your passions, fun, and professional development. So what we want to do and what we're going to encourage you to do is taking these, and don't worry, you don't have to write them down. You don't have to do a screenshot. It's all on the action sheet for you. We've made this as easy as possible for you. Okay. So you can pick out of these things and figure out which one. And then you're going to give each one of these a color code. And then you're going to start, just like we're in elementary school, start coloring in the blocks. And if you find that you're spending too much time on your business, and you know that you need to take care of your physical, mental health and your inner circle relationships, and you've got no time for that, then guess what's going to happen? Your business is going to steal your joy. But if your business is really important to you and you're spending all your time on fun, fun will last so long, but now you're going to start feeling guilty. You're going to start feeling like you're not accomplishing something. You're not going to be able to contribute in a meaningful way. And this is what we talk about when we talk about balance. Again, it is not that you're supposed to be doing all the things. And it doesn't mean that there's not time for hustle as well. Listen, when I first started my business, there was a time when other things actually had to get put on the wayside because I was running for a goal. I was striving to reach, the end of a goal to get my business launched. So that's okay. Times of hustle are okay. However, it is important for us to understand that long term, they're not sustainable. When we're hustling, this should be a short period of time that we hustle to get to a finish line. Maybe there's an incentive. Maybe there's a trip you want to take. Maybe, you really want to grow your team. So you want to get 3 new team members. So you go for that, and that's okay. But just make sure that you come back to the things that really matter to you. All right. So how do we make sure it all gets done? Well, we've got to take a moment, and we've got to consider this. And this was a big question that I had for myself when I was starting my business. How do I manage my responsibilities? So the things that I have to do and my passions. It's a really big, and it's a very good question. These are non-negotiables. I have to eat. I have to sleep. I have kids. I have to care for them. At some point when I first started my business, I still had a job. So I had to do that. Life stuff, groceries, appointments, doctor's appointments. Our health takes, a downturn, and we've got to take care of that. Listen, we still have to get those in. So what we're going to tell you is you need to get your responsibilities in your time blocking sheet first, okay? And then what you do with the white matter that's left is you start filling it in with your passions. These are your workouts. These are your action steps to reach your goals. And then make sure that there's white space left over. Now, you might have to do this 2 or 3 times, and you have to practice what is sustainable. You have to practice what is realistic. Because you may say, well, yeah, I want to spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week working on my business. And then you realize, wait a minute, I can't do that because I have a job and I have 4 kids and I'm training for a marathon. Okay, well, you still have to sleep and eat and do all those things as well. So this is something you have to remember, okay? Just be flexible. It's okay to pivot and adjust. The reason why we've given you a printable sheet is you can do this many times until you figure out what really works for you. And it took me a little while. I did it several weeks in a row before I figured out this is my week. This is my priority blocking. And then from there, now I can start to do my daily activity plan. Now I realize, okay, so for me, I don't have a job and I'm building my business. So I have 8 hours a day that I can dedicate to my business. So that's what I do. But I only do it 5 times a week. Okay. And in that, I have to set aside, so out of my 40 hours a week, I set aside all the things that matter for building a business. So that's what we're going to go into in a few minutes. Is we're going to talk about what do you do with the time that you've set aside for healing. Okay. Again, maybe you're not building a team, maybe you're not building a business, but you still have a goal because you really want to get healing into the hands of people that really need it. Okay, that's great. So we're going to decide in a few minutes, once we've figured out how much time you have to do all of the things that you need to do, we're going to take a look at that. So do you have to choose between the two? Absolutely not. You actually don't have to choose one thing at the expense of all others. Like I said, sometimes you do have hustle. That's okay, especially if you're going for a big goal or you're near a finish line. But you can focus on different areas at different times. You can find harmony in that schedule. And remember, it does not mean, okay, so I need to spend 2 hours here, 2 hours here, 2 hours. No, you can spend 20 minutes here. You can spend 5 minutes here. You can spend 2 hours here. It's up to you how you do this, okay? You can focus on one area. If you focus on one area and you ignore the others, that's those negative emotions we talked about. Other areas begin to suffer. So sometimes we do have to focus on our immediate needs, though. So remember that. And we have to follow our passions while still being responsible. You don't have to give up your dreams and passions just because you have responsibilities. You do not have to choose one over the other. Okay. So in the last 18 minutes or so, I'm going to give you, okay, so what do you do? So remember, when you get your action sheet, your time blocking action sheet, you're going to go through this and it's going to take you a little time to practice it. I know when I do one-on-one coaching, a lot of times people fill in every single moment and it's not practical. It's not sustainable long-term. Yeah, you can do it for a week and then you realize that other things are suffering. So be kind to yourself when you do this, okay? Practice it, make sure that it works for you. And over a period of time, you'll figure that out. And then what we want to do is we want to move in to planning our daily activities, okay? So tracking your time is a great place to start. This is a reflection, okay? Now, I do have an action sheet for time tracking. We're not including in today's session because I think that this is something you can do on your own. It's a reflection. Do a bit of a journal, take your week and really start jotting down. Do it for 7 days. Figure out, where are you spending your time? And if you're spending your time 8 hours on social media, does that align with your goals? Does it align with your values? Are you wasting time? Are you spending too much time and not enough time in certain areas? By tracking it, it allows you to be honest with yourself. So try it, okay, for a week. Jot down, what is it that you're doing, okay? All right. And really, it's a powerful self-awareness tool. This is another thing that we know as leaders, as people who are interested in reaching goals. It's going to be something that's going to provide accountability, and it will help move you from being a drifter into being intentional. It helps us kind of face reality. Okay. So that's the first step. So I'm going to encourage you to just track your time for a week. Okay. See where you're spending it. See where maybe you could do things a little bit better. And then we're going to create some intentions. Soon as you've tracked your time for a week, you're ready to be intentional. And you can take what you've learned from tracking and build an intentional and realistic plan of action. It'll help you set your priorities. It'll create real focus for you. So somebody asked, how do we focus on the right things? Well, this is it. It'll create space for the things that matter. And it will help you really understand what you do prioritize. So the question now, once you've got that, so a week of tracking, a week of blocking. Now remember, this blocking piece, it's a bit of a science. And it's going to be different for every one of you because you all have different goals. You all have different values. Things that matter to one person won't matter to the other and vice versa. But once you've got that and you're thinking about building your Healy business in whatever way, shape, or form that you want to, the question becomes, are you ready to take action? Now, I said at the beginning, listen, we can give you all the tools, but if you're unwilling to do the work, you're not going to be able to get to where you want to be. How do you reach your goals? How do you rank up? How do you increase commissions? How do you find success? How do I sustain this all long term? I'm going to be honest. These are the questions that we get from direct sellers around the globe. Okay. So what we've done is after a lot of thought, we put together what we call the Tap Gap. So it's a daily activity plan. All right. And it lays out daily activities that will help you build a successful and sustainable business. And it's all about doing the right things. So if you consistently complete your Tap Gap and you teach your team to do the same, you're going to have a much, much more likely chance of tapping into the full potential of your business. It's a powerful daily personal accountability tool. Of course, we're the accountability partners. It makes sense for us to create accountability tools. It gives you a clear picture, especially if you're visual, of the skills that you need to grow. It tells you the key business activities for direct sales specifically, okay? And it has the foundational pieces that lead to long-term sustainable business practices. But you have to set yourself up for success, okay? So before you even go into this, so when you get your daily activity plan, maybe you're going to want to jump right into doing your daily activity plan. I am going to encourage you to trust the process. Okay? Trust the process. Track your time for a week. Be honest. Okay? Then block your time for a week and try doing that for a week. So once you've blocked it, see if it's realistic. Once you realize the things that you need to adjust it. And once you feel comfortable that you've gotten there, okay, now you can do it. And then it's time to go, okay, the time I blocked off for Healy, this is what I need to do. Okay, you're going to figure out what's important. You're going to make sure that you do the first things that are important, the most important things done. This is what you're going to do. And you're going to do it in times that matter, times where there's least amount of interruptions. Maybe this is a time when you know that you're fully clear and it's a time when you're really productive. And then when something isn't right, adjust it. Be kind. Okay. It is something that comes with time and practice. And how do you do it? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. There's 8 key daily activities as a network marketer, as a direct seller, that you need to be considering. Okay, you want to be setting your intentions. You want to be planning. You want to be networking, prospecting, following up, supporting, onboarding, and getting professional development or personal development. So, how much time should you do this? Well, that's another good question. Remember, this is just your Healy time, okay? So this is the time block that you have colored off. Maybe you've colored it navy or pink or blue, Healy colors, okay? So you're gonna color that in, and in that time, you're gonna set aside. You're gonna do all 8 of these things. So do you think you should do them all equal time, equal effort? What do you think? What's our thoughts? Equal time, equal effort? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Can you guess? Equal time, equal effort. So we've got someone who thinks that maybe we should, break it down into equal time, equal effort. All right. The truth of the matter is, what we have learned from the most successful direct sellers and network marketers is this: they should be spending about 5% of their time that they've set aside. So let's say you've got 10 hours. Okay. So 5% of that 10 hours is about setting your intention. It's getting in that right headspace. And then 5% blocking your time, 15% adding people to your network, 30% prospecting, 15% connecting with your current customers, 10% supporting your team, 10% training and guiding new distributors or new people that join your team, so onboarding, and 10% building up yourself and educating yourself. But there are different ways in which we look at this, okay? So very quickly, I'm going to break this down for you. If you are working a network marketing business, i.e. a direct sales business, full-time, what we consider full-time, practically, so the people that we've worked with in direct sales that have said, yep, I do this full-time, generally what they say is I'm spending 25 dedicated hours a week to my business. 25. This is non-interrupted, dedicated time. Okay. This is not driving time. This is not any of those things. It's dedicated work time. Okay. So the other 15 hours a week that makes up a 40 would be, going to events and doing, maybe doing other things, scrolling through social media, those sorts of things. But dedicated work productive time, 25 hours. So if you are that person, once you've done your blocking, you realize, yeah, I do have 25 hours I can dedicate to Healy, then this is what you should be doing on a daily basis. Spending 10 to 15 minutes getting the right headspace, 10 to 15 minutes looking at and blocking your time for the things that matter that day, 45 minutes adding to your list, 90 minutes connecting with people on that list, 45 minutes connecting with your current customers, seeing how they're doing, seeing if there's anything you can do to support them, 35 minutes supporting your team, 35 minutes training and guiding new distributors, and 35 minutes building yourself and building your skills. Now you may say, well, should I do this every single day the same way? No, absolutely not. You can times that by 5, and maybe you take chunks of time. It's up to you. It is what works best for you. This is not how I do my day. Now, I work full-time for my business at TAB, but this is not how I do. What I do is if I'm networking, then I'm spending a big chunk of time. So it might be half a day or a full day. So I'm putting that all in one day, and I'm averaging the time spent, okay? What we consider, based on what direct sellers have told us and what network marketers have told us, is if I'm building my business about part-time, that's approximately 4 hours, 3 days a week. So about 12 hours. Again, we've broken it down. So if you want to take a snapshot of this, so let's go back just to give you an opportunity. If you wanted to take a screenshot of this, by all means. If you are that person who's going to spend 25 dedicated productive hours in your Healy business, take a snapshot of this, do the math, and you'll be well on your way to creating your daily activity plan. Now, if you're the part-time person, you're thinking, yeah, 12 hours, that sounds about right. Sounds about right. Take a snapshot of this. Again, we've broken down the times for you. Now, this is not exact. Don't get your knickers in a knot. If you don't spend 25 minutes doing professional development this week, maybe you're going to do double of that next week. Okay, that's okay. And then we have the casual worker. This is the person who has got a lot going on. Likely they already have a job, or they're just, they only want to do this part-time. That's okay. They want to do it casually when they feel like it. All right. Well, if you still want to work intentionally, if you still want to have intention, but you still want to do it casually, totally fine. This is about 3.5 hours, 2 days a week. Okay. Again, it can be split up 1 hour a day. That's up to you how you do that. Okay. So go ahead, take a screenshot of that if you'd like. By all means, you'll be able to see this on the recording as well. But we've broken it down for you. If you really want to put dedicated time in your Healy business, this is how you do it. Now, don't expect big, massive financial gain and goals putting in a casual amount of hours. You have to make sure that your goals match the time that you're willing to put in. So if you have those big goals, they're massive like that, then you probably want to make sure that you're putting in the right amount of time. There's too many people who go into network marketing companies And they have this idea that I'm going to get rich quick. Guess what, folks? That's not the plan here. Okay. This is actually building a sustainable long-term business that you can depend on and make it realistic for you.
Shannon, can you go back one more time? There's a couple of people who would really like to make sure they get those screenshots.
For
So go back to
sure.
the first one, go back to the very first one. All right, go ahead, take a screenshot, folks. You got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next one.
All right. Giving them another minute to find their phones or whatever they need. Okay, back to part-time. And you know what we could do? We could give these screenshots to Eva as well, and she could attach them for them if they'd like that.
Okay, that would be great. I'll make sure that happens, Shannon, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So, and this is the casual. So again, you might be somewhere in between some of those. We wanted to make it simple for you. We wanted to make it realistic. We wanted it to be based on what we saw in many different fields of network marketing. And this is the information that we gathered, okay? And what we found was people doing it casually. This is about how many hours they were spending a week, okay? All right. So what does it mean to do all of these things? Well, we've got 3 minutes left. So we're going to go through these very quickly, but this is the tail end because you're going to get your action sheet and you are going to have to do the work. Setting an intention. Why should we do it? Prime our mind for success. This is so important. Mindset matters, folks. It's going to help you start each day calm, positive, confident. And the ways in which you can practice that, some of you, it might be meditation, doing affirmations, personal mantras, really actively being present. And I didn't do that today, and I apologize, I skipped it. But you know, that scale of 1 to 5, how are you showing up? Making sure that you're showing up as a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10, making sure that that's how you are. Okay. Second one is, what does it mean to block your time? Well, why you should do it is setting clear direction, setting up goal-focused activities. It's going to help you get the important things done. And the way in which you can practice this is through organization, time management, and self-discipline. Adding new people to your list. Well, why? Well, of course, we already know it's making new contacts, meeting new people. It's going to help you begin to build those quality connections and building those relationships. And the way in which you practice that, well, you got to put yourself out there, get comfortable being and talking to people, sharing healing, sharing what it's done for you, sharing your stories. Connecting with people on that list. Okay, so this is where we start to be curious, right? Why we need to do it? Well, we've got to learn. We've got to learn how we can help others to provide value. It helps you meet needs and serve others. And we do this through prospecting, communicating, active listening, through follow-up, connecting with our current customers. Why should we do this? Well, this is really important. If we looked at the stats, I don't have the stat in front of me, but a lot of our business comes from people that we're already doing business with. Okay. So what we want to do is serve, create loyal customers. We want to serve and create people who become loyal to Healy, who really understand the product and how to use it and how to share it with others. This helps us build those long-term relationships. It definitely boosts your business, allows you to make more money. And the way in which we practice that is through organization, being intentional, not drifting, not floating, planning and follow-up. Supporting our team, well, creating a team that works and works well together is why we should be doing it. It helps you build your dream team. And what we're talking about is stability. We're talking about long-term teams. We're talking about teams that collaborate, who innovate, who share this great mission of sharing Healy with others. And so it's really, really important. But on top of that, it also provides accountability. This allows you to practice it through duplication and through leadership. So within that leadership scoping, coaching, mentoring, empowering others, those sorts of things. Training and guiding new people, new Healy members. Well, it helps people get started on the right foot. And we did onboarding already. And I think, I think we did a really good job of telling you why it matters. It allows people to avoid those rabbit holes, gets people doing the right things right away. So this means that you do have to practice being available, but you don't have to be available all the time. If you've set aside that 10% of your time to onboard new people, then put that boundary in place and say, all right, I've already spent my 10 hour, 5 hours this week doing it. So you make your appointment for the next 5 hours when you're doing it again. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't support people. That's what those other hours are, that white space. That's for emergencies. That's for when things go sideways. And don't panic if you don't do this every single week, because life will get in the way. Just saying, okay? This is in a perfect world with no interruptions. And build yourself and your skills. And this is incredibly important. You need to continue growing yourself in order to grow others. It'll make you a great leader. It'll grow your business. It'll increase your influence. And the way that you do that, you self-reflect. You create some self-awareness. You be honest and transparent with yourself and others. You create accountability, and you develop yourself. Folks, it has been an absolute pleasure to be with you again today. I hope you found this valuable. I know it's a lot of information, but don't worry. You are going to get your action sheets, okay? Eva's going to get those up for us. And again, we know that this works, but it does mean that you have to put it into action. Knowledge alone is not going to get you anywhere. Action is where it's at. What are we going to talk about next week? Well, or next month, I should say. We're going to talk about overcoming the obstacles, all the things that get in the way. Many of you might say, yeah, in a perfect world, but my world isn't perfect. Guess what? Obstacles happen. How do we get through them? How do we get over them? How do we get under them? How do we get those obstacles out of the way? We're going to talk about that in our next month's webinar. This is where we're at in our journey. We'll be on number 12 with only 3 more after that. Folks, I hope that you've enjoyed it today. It's always exciting to spend time with you. And don't forget, we've got our Rising Stars. Stay tuned for more details. They will be starting soon. These will be something really special outside of what we're doing in the webinars, okay? Very different than what we're doing in the webinars. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Don't forget to share those links with your downlines, with your colleagues, with your friends, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Shannon, thank you so much. We have just had unbelievable feedback. We're 5 minutes over, but I feel like it was 5 minutes well spent. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop the recording, but before I do, please continue to put your questions into the chat. We did post a survey link. We love to hear from you. What worked, what didn't work, what can we do better next time? There was a couple of questions in there that I'm actually not 100% certain how to answer on the chat. So I'm going to stop the recording, but we're going to go back through those and see what we can do to get those answers for you. So thank you again, and we hope to see all of you again next session, next webinar.
Absolutely.
All right.